Question number 2, Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Has he read the latest Reserve Bank M10 Housing release, and if so, can he confirm that it indicates that the value of New Zealand's housing stock, as at the end of June this year, was valued at $959 billion, or 381% of nominal GDP?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, and to answer the member's first part of his question, yes, and I would point out that the M10 series also indicates that investment in residential housing has achieved its highest recorded value in the 26-year history of the M10 series at $4 billion and has nearly doubled since 2011. It shows house prices almost doubled in the 9 years to 2008, and that house price growth has moderated somewhat since. And I'd also refer the member to the Reserve Bank's M5 series, which shows the New Zealand economy growing around 3.5% in real terms in the year to June, having climbed out of a recession that started when that member was a staff member in the previous Labor government. And to answer the member's second question, yes.
Supplementary.
Order.
Could have been
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Can he confirm that the figure of 381% of nominal GDP dwarfs the peak of 210% of nominal GDP that the US housing market had in 2007, just before that market crashed?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, no, I can't, although I do understand that the member is sourcing from a newsletter his analysis. But the simple point is that asset values in housing are high around the world at the moment. So in terms of New Zealand, we're not that unusual, and the reason for that is because of the very low interest rates that are being experienced across the world. Now, the member can pretend that that's not the reason for it, but that's a very significant part of it.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Can he further confirm that each month last year, the value of the housing stock inflated by $18 billion, nearly outstripping the total increase for GDP in that period?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, to the extent that those two things are comparable, then yes, I can confirm that that's probably the case. But again, the member needs to look at the reasons why and also look at the serviceability of that. And I refer him back to the Treasury's September monthly indicators report for some comments on the serviceability of that debt. And also, in terms of why it's happening, would point out to him that we are around the world experiencing record low interest rates, so people are able to service higher mortgages than they were perhaps when we had rampant inflation back in 2008.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Would he describe New Zealand's housing stock as A, overvalued, B, ballooning and unsustainable, C, a risk to our economic stability, or D, his usual response, meh?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, I think he's found that leaving the hyperbole to Mr Robertson is the normally best way of dealing with things.
That's right.
In terms of current house prices, they are higher than usual. They reflect the strength of the New Zealand economy. They reflect the comparative strength relative to other parts of the world, and they reflect the very, very low levels of interest rates, and yes, the need to boost supply. The government is boosting supply, and that's having a big impact over the next period in thousands and thousands and thousands.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Order. Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Does he take any responsibility for allowing the New Zealand housing market to get so out of control on his watch through his government's failure to crack down on speculators and to support the building of adequate supply of affordable housing, or is it all just someone else's fault?
The Honourable Stephen
Mr
Joyce.
Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, I think we've just had a window into the mind of Grant Robertson, who once again believes that finance ministers should control every part of every market in the world. And the reality is, Mr Robertson, you are whistling in the wind if you think you can control world interest rates. We can take steps to improve the supply of housing, and that's exactly what we're doing. But in terms of low interest rates, Mr Speaker, Mr Robertson is whistling in the wind.
So, supplementary.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Isn't it time for his government to support an economy built on improving productivity through more R&D, higher skills and innovation, rather than relying on the sandcastle that he's built on growing debt and speculation in housing?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the member was obviously not listening to question 1, and I would point out to him that in question 1, New Zealand's high-tech sector has just posted a $1 billion increase in turnover in the last year, that it's investing more and more in research and development, that its exports are approaching $7 billion, and the member needs to go and find some talking points based in fact.